The trial captivating a nation.
Reed is accused of killing her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. The defense claims she was framed in a police cover-up.
On the scene to keep you informed at every turn.
In Dedham, Katie Benoit, NBC 10 News.
With live updates and legal analysis.
What happens then? Does the trial have to stop?
A lawyer's only as good as his or her word.
They failed miserably and they'll continue to fail.
On air, online, and on the app. NBC 10 News has the latest on the retrial of Karen Reed.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Gene Valicenti. This is our daily recap of the court action in the Karen Reed trial. Court is over, so we do this after 5 o'clock on the NBC 10 WJAR YouTube channel. Katie Benoit is our reporter up there. Today, Katie, Yuri Bukhenik was the principal witness. He was the state police supervisor at the scene when the body was found. He's also the supervisor for Michael Proctor, who later became the lead investigator and was later fired for misbehavior during the investigation. We'll get into that coming up in just a second. But as we always do, let's listen to Karen Reed outside court, see if she said anything today.
Made over the shoes, do they match from the picture to what John was wearing?
Just look at the evidence, look at the pictures. I didn't collect them. I've seen that though.
Karen, did you see John go in the house?
I did.
You saw him go in the house?
I saw John go in the house.
Can you describe him going into the house? Which door and how and when?
No, I have though, and I'm sure the prosecution will play it.
Do you think Proctor will testify, Karen?
I don't believe so, but you've seen this afternoon how much evidence has not been shown to this jury. And we've had to work really hard, Alan's had to work really hard to organize it so that they can be presented with the actual evidence in this case.
Would you call
Proctor?
To be determined.
Karen, what did you think of the difficulty in getting Sergeant Buchanan for a direct question?
It was just a little bit worse than it was last year.
Did you delete the ring video?
I wouldn't know how, and I would have no access, and that'll come out on
What do you make of the difficulty in getting Proctor's name in there?
I'm sure you know why we've had difficulty getting his name out there. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Pretty talkative today as opposed to the past 2 days. All right, we go back to the central debatable point. Did John O'Keefe go in the house? Karen Reed has absolutely said he did. I saw him go in. In fact, he never came back out. That's why I got angry and left. The state is presenting witnesses who say he never went inside the house. Also, with regard to that shoe, is this the sneaker-like shoe that was taken off the body and the other one was missing inside the house? Katie, is that what they're talking about?
Yes, so one sneaker was found at the scene later on, and he was brought to the hospital with one shoe on. So there's been some questions about this shoe since it didn't show up for a few days at the crime scene.
Okay, let's go to Sergeant Yuri Bukhenik. Once again, he was the principal investigator at the scene, and he's talking about, in this particular clip of testimony, about the broken taillight, which has also been the source of contention. Did she break it there when she hit him, or was it broken somewhere else, and were pieces brought to plant the seed against her? Let's listen.
For Dighton PD to arrive to assist us. Once they arrived, Michael Proctor and I exited and proceeded up the driveway. I told Michael...
Let me stop you with what you said. I want to just know what you observed.
Okay.
As you're walking up the driveway, how close to that SUV did you get at its closest?
At its closest, I got as close as me and the defense table, which is probably 10 to 12 feet.
From the 10 to 12 feet, did you notice anything remarkable about the SUV?
Yes, there was a large piece of red taillight cover missing from the vehicle.
Okay, that's at the scene. The body's in the snow. She has come back and returned. She's hysterical. Her SUV is there. He's noticing the broken taillight. All right, let's move on to cut two now. This is Sergeant Bukhenik again, talking about Michael Proctor, who was central to this case because he was the lead investigator. He was fired, let go because of mismanagement and misbehavior with regard to how he characterized principles in the investigation. Let's listen to that. Then, Katie, you can comment on the significance of this. Roll that, cut two.
Michael Proctor was the person who's the assigned case agent, the lead case agent in this particular investigation, correct?
Michael Proctor was the case officer for this investigation.
He was assigned, ultimately, to use another phrase, as the lead investigator, wasn't he?
I'm not going to agree with you.
Is there a reason that you want to try to distance yourself from naming Michael Proctor as the lead investigator in the case? Is there some reason?
I am not trying to distance myself. All I'm saying is the term that I use is the case officer. We're simply case managers. There's no leading investigation in any direction.
He's an Achilles heel for the state. There's no question. That's why it appears they don't want to call him the lead investigator. And Karen said we're having difficulty getting his name on the record and testimony. Go ahead and continue that, Katie.
Sure. There were a lot of questions on cross today about Proctor. Now, we don't know if he's going to be called or not. So the defense is trying to get his name out there as much as possible. And since he was fired, there's some questions about the evidence. Again, the defense alleges evidence might have been planted. So there was a lot of questions kind of asking about how Proctor was involved in the investigation. He wrote a number of reports. He collected some evidence. Some of the lines of questioning, too, was he alone with the evidence? John O'Keefe's clothing, it had to be laid out because it was wet when he was found in the snow, and it was by itself for multiple days. So a lot of the questioning was, did Proctor have access to that? Who had access to that?
Proctor was fired for a whole host of reasons, but what's the principal reason? It had to do with the way he characterized Karen Reed and others with very, very sexist language, derogatory terms. Go ahead and just refresh us on that.
Yeah, there were some text messages that he sent to friends, family, and coworkers, just disturbing text messages, not very nice. And those were read in open court. Some of those text messages were read today, too, by Sergeant Yuri Bukhenik. But it's been, an interesting part of the case, hearing these texts read out loud in court. But that was one of the main reasons why he was fired. Also, in those texts, he kind of indicated there was a bias towards the investigation.
All right. The defense is making a big deal about investigators not going inside the house to look for the other shoe, to look for his missing coat, to look for a lot of things, for not making a lot out of the fact that the people who own the house never woke up, slept through the whole chaotic scene. This is cross-examination now with the defense going after Sergeant Yuri Bukhenik, again, lead investigator at the scene, on why he seemingly didn't bother too much with the Alberts who were sleeping inside and with Jennifer McCabe, who was out drinking, went to the party at the house and found the body. Why hasn't the state, why didn't the troopers go a little tougher on those people? Let's listen.
We're inside the home when the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe arrived in the SUV.
These are the very people that would have a motive to lie if they were somehow involved, right?
Can you answer that, Sergeant?
No, Your Honor.
If these three individuals were involved in the death of John O'Keefe or knew others who were involved in the death of John O'Keefe, who they were close to, they would have a motive to lie about that, correct?
Objection.
But you took these three individuals just at their word, based on those first three interviews, correct?
No, not correct.
The three individuals, the husband and wife, the Alberts, and Jen McCabe, the friend. These investigators aren't going to give up anything they don't have to. They're trained at testifying, and hence the curt answers. What more do you make of that? In fact, Katie, we're just getting into the start of talking about the Alberts and Jen McCabe by the defense, aren't we?
Yes. So we haven't heard from Brian Albert, who owned the home, yet. We haven't heard from his wife. So it's possible these people could be called, but the defense really is focusing in on the fact that they didn't go in the house. Some of these interviews were done at these witnesses' homes, not at the police station. So we'll definitely hear a lot more as this case goes on. And this cross-examination just was for a couple hours today. So we'll hear more tomorrow. And I expect they'll go into that more as well.
Okay. Is Buchanan coming back on the stand, or we're going to get new people tomorrow?
He is. He'll be back tomorrow, at least for the morning. I think he'll be there for a couple hours, I believe, for cross-examination, and then there'll be redirect. So it'll be a couple hours tomorrow. He'll be back on the stand for at least.
Okay, we've got a full screen up before we leave. Dan, could you put that back for just a second? Sergeant Yuri Bukhenik, he was the lead trooper at the scene. He was Michael Proctor's supervisor. He's disputing whether or not Proctor was ever the lead investigator. He calls him the case manager. Who was disciplined after the first trial, and who forfeited 5 vacation days? Is this Bukhenik?
Yes, he was also disciplined. for failing to discipline someone underneath of him because he was the supervisor of Proctor. So he was also disciplined and had to forfeit 5 vacation days.
Okay, so he was punished for not managing Proctor, who was fired for a whole host of reasons. We've already gone over that. All right, NBC 10's Katie Benoit. We'll let you get back to work. Thanks for joining us, folks. By the way, we invite your comments as you watch this, and tomorrow we'll make a real effort to include your comments as we continue with our daily debrief right here on the WJAR YouTube page. For now, I'm Gene Valicenti. I'll see you on the news at 6.
The trial captivating a nation, on the scene to keep you informed at every turn.
The defense brought up some inconsistencies with his testimony.
The lies and the dishonesty in this case is overwhelming.
With live updates and legal analysis.
Set that up for me. Why?
So the text messages between them kind of set up this argument that happened.
It's to show that they weren't always lovey-dovey.
He testified today that there was no fighting. They seemed normal. Nothing was going on.
Carrie, John's dead.
NBC 10 News has the latest on the retrial of Karen Read.